Section 4. You will hear a lecturer talking about the use of games techniques in business. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40 on page 7. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Today, we are going to look at how the phenomenon known as gamification has really exploded in recent years. So what exactly is gamification? It has been defined as the use of games thinking and mechanics in non-game situations, such as for business. Up to now, its most common function has been marketing. It is extremely popular with big companies, but as we'll see, it also has many other uses. Gamification techniques work on our natural desire for competition. One way they do this is by providing a reward, for example, badges or points, or providing a type of virtual currency. But don't be fooled into thinking the concept is a novel one. Just think of the frequent flyer incentive schemes that were initiated by airlines to try and retain customers. In fact, it's been around for years. However, it has become more prolific with advances in technology. So how is gamification being used? Well, it is seen as an excellent way of obtaining almost instantaneous feedback through common social media sites. However, there are other areas where it is increasingly being used, in particular as a means of trying to convince people through fun activities to alter their behaviour. Another use is in education or training in the workplace, especially when it is just not feasible to train people on the real thing. Good examples of this are the aircraft simulators used by pilots or the urban simulators used by town planners. So let's look at a few examples of the successful implementation of gamification. One perhaps surprising use of gamification has been in official campaigns by governments and authorities who have quickly seen its potential. In Australia, the government developed a smartphone app called My Fit Buddy, whose aim was to help people get off the sofa and exercise. The app provided plenty of motivational content to ensure people got the encouragement they needed to increase their levels of activity. Overseas in one city, instead of just punishing the drivers caught driving too fast, a local authority conducted a trial where they rewarded good drivers with free entries into a draw. The trial was so successful that it resulted in a 22% reduction in speeding. Gamification is also playing its part in helping people make healthy choices. In an attempt to get commuters to walk instead of using the escalators in an underground station, the staircase next to it was transformed into a piano. It had a touchpad underneath, which played notes as people stepped on it. When it was in use, almost everyone opted to use the stairs instead of the escalator. Another example is a medical research company in Australia. They realised the potential of gamification to help the elderly recover much more quickly from accidents. When the elderly fall, the most common injury is not to the arm or the leg, but to the hand. So they took an already popular computer game which involved people smashing fruit and adapted it so patients could practice their fine motor skills in a fun way. Now, there are a number of things to consider when using gamification. First of all, there is no way it can work unless it is fun. In fact, without that element, it could have the complete opposite effect on the consumer. In addition, as companies are often obtaining a lot more personal information and data on their customers this way, they should always be mindful of their legal obligations in terms of legislation relating to privacy. So now it's over to you to think of other examples of gamification that you might have come across.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of the listening test. You now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the listening answer sheet.